everybody, it's Yvonne DeVita with Scratchins and Sniffins Out Loud, and I have with me today Dr. Grace Long and Dr. Larry McDaniel. And today we're going to talk about how to identify whether your pet is overweight, and we're going to delve a little bit into the problems with being overweight so that you can understand the risks involved in that. So welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Thanks, Yvonne.
We talked about this a little bit, and there is a place on the Purina website that describes what your dog, especially, I'm not sure about your cat, but it does describe what your dog should look like.
Yeah, we did a post on body condition scoring. It's actually a Purina initiative, was to develop this idea of body condition scoring so people could look at pictures of dogs, they could look at silhouettes of dogs and cats, and get a couple of other general guidelines about how to tell if their dogs were overweight. Grace, you want to talk about dogs, and then I'll talk about cats?
Okay, good. You gave me the easy one. There's really three things that you can do to assess the body condition of your dog. The first is to actually run your hands along his sides, start up near his neck, and put one hand on each side and gently run your hands across his ribs. And with just a little bit of pressure, you should feel his ribs. You should actually be able to feel them. So if you look at him, you shouldn't see them, but you should be able to feel them. The other thing is if you look at your dog from above, he should have a waist. So you will see where he actually comes in behind the rib cage and narrows there to have a waist. And then if you look at him from the side, you will see that there's a tuck up again behind the rib cage. And those are the three things that you really want to check on your pet to see if they're an ideal weight.
There's some really good photos on that link to kind of guide you through that process. Photos from looking, up, down on a dog. We have photos of puppies, too, because it's really important to look at ideal body condition in puppies so that we don't start them out in a poor body condition. And with cats, you also need to be able to feel their rib. Same technique you would use with a dog, just running your finger over the rib cage. But in my experience, cats, the first place they show excess weight is low, on their abdomen, and sometimes even between their hind legs. They'll get looks like they're carrying a little excess baggage around. I've even had people, when I was in practice, come in and ask me if their cat had a tumor. Well, actually what it had was some fat that had accumulated between the wall of the abdomen and the skin. It feels like a big wad of fat hanging down there between their legs. And there's a good picture of that on the website, too. There's a silhouette of a cat that shows that pretty clearly.
I'm wondering, especially with dogs, but perhaps with cats also, is there a difference in the breed?
That's a really good point. Yes, there is. A dog like a greyhound will have a really obvious tuck, whereas maybe a bull terrier, you won't see that same thing. So, yes, there are definitely breed differences.
And there are breed differences in the incidence of obesity, too. Beagles and labs and basset hounds tend to have issues with weight. I was visiting my in-laws, and they have that little Cairn Terrier, Zach. He looked like a little coffee table. At one point, I set my drink down on his back, and it just stayed there.
Yeah. Another little tip, because a lot of folks, the weight on dogs and cats creeps on them very gradually, just like it does on people. But if you look back to how much your pet weighed when they were 1 year old, that's pretty close to what they should weigh for the rest of their lives.
Interesting. So let's get into then the risks involved in minor overweight or major overweight, or where's the line to obesity?
There are a lot of health risks, and they're not unlike the ones that we see in people. They're very similar. Probably one of the most common risks that we see in dogs is arthritis. We see a definite increase in that in animals that are heavy. And a lot of times that's why pet owners will bring their pets in, is because they're stiff or they're having a hard time getting up. They don't want to move around as much as they used to. And it's usually because they're becoming arthritic. With cats, one of the biggest risks is diabetes. And that's very similar to what adults get when they have adult onset diabetes. Very similar to cats. And sometimes with cats that become diabetics, if you can get them to lose some weight, they'll actually go into remission.
Their insulin requirement goes down, if not goes away.
Right.
You know, Yvonne, in a 14-year study that Purina did with Labrador Retrievers, a kind of a landmark study on longevity, one of the key things coming out of there was that dogs that are at ideal body weight live longer. You know, the onset of a whole host of chronic diseases is delayed in dogs that are at ideal body condition as opposed to those that are overweight.
Yeah. In fact, the thin dogs lived, the median increase in life was 1.8 years.
Grace, there's a lot of research and talk about the role of chronic inflammation in the development of chronic diseases, and fat tissue itself creates chronic low-level inflammation. And so that could be one of the contributing factors to why overweight dogs develop chronic diseases at an earlier age.
Right. If anything, it makes them more susceptible to other conditions, other problems.
Well, I think also we need to talk a little bit about how they get overweight. Purina certainly is very much committed to not just providing good food, but providing nutritionally balanced food. And I think some pet parents aren't sure what that means. And should we not be giving them table scraps?
Well, you don't need to give them table scraps.
Right. But, in a perfect world, absolutely no table scraps. In a real world, I guess you have to say, if you're going to do it, then give them healthy table scraps. Give them some green beans. That's great. My dog loves carrot sticks. Instead of high-calorie treats, I give her a carrot stick, and she loves it. So you don't want to scrape your plate and give what's left on your plate that you didn't want to eat to your dog or to your cat, or give them anything fatty or high in calories or rich. But an occasional veggie is okay.
Mhm. And sweets. No sweet. They don't need cookies.
No, they don't need that.
I mean, dog cookies that you get from Purina Treats are okay, but cookies out of the pantry, they don't need those.
No. And you have to watch the treats, because the treats can be empty calories as well. So some treats are okay, but you have to monitor it and control the number that you're giving.
Now, also, we haven't mentioned that another way to help maintain that good weight is exercise. And so we can all walk the dog or even run with the dog, but what do we do with our cat?
It's more difficult with cats, but you can play with them. You can get these feathers on a stick, or little pen lights that they'll chase around. Mm-hmm. Or you can, make them hunt for their food. Put little bits of food around in different parts of the house so that they have to be more active to get to it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And I know people that put a harness on their cat and actually take them outside. Mm-hmm. That's, by the way, I think one of the only ways you ought to take them outside is if you have them under some type of control. But right. To try to train your cat to do a little walking.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, because some people have fenced-in backyards, but cats can get out of fenced-in backyards easier than dogs, right?
Yeah. Although you could have an invisible fence, too, for a cat.
Well, there you go.
We have one in the clinic. Otherwise, a cat breaks into the pet food.
Oh. Well, I think these are all really great ideas, and it's important for we pet parents to understand the importance of our pet's weight.
Well, we've got a few techniques that we can talk about next time that will help make a weight loss program more successful.
Well, that sounds great. So we'll wind up for today, and at our next podcast, we're going to talk about the ways that you can help keep your pet's weight at the right level. Dr. Grace, thank you for today. Dr. Larry, I'll be speaking to you soon.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Stay warm.
Oh, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.